5 moves to make is back, so let's get into it. We got 5 things we need to talk about heading into week 13. At the top, move number 1, we are adding a series of Raiders players, and most of this is desperation plays. That's just the truth here, right? Because the players we're adding are Desmond Ridder, who is now the presumed starter because Gardner Minshew broke his collarbone. He's out for the year, right? Aiden O'Connell already out as well. That means Desmond Ridder is the guy here. Now, obviously, if you're a contender, if you are relying on Desmond Ridder, you're probably not winning a title. I think we can all agree on that. That's the most likely scenario. But he's a starting quarterback. That means he has to be on a roster in your Superflex leagues. After him, you're adding Ameer Abdullah, which would have been a move last week if I was here making videos last week. But nonetheless, he's still available in over 40% of leagues. Madison and Zamir White are not guaranteed to be back in week 13, which means Ameer Abdullah is going to be the starter once again. He looked good in the past game. He looked fine-ish on the ground. Overall, a boring offense, and without a ton of bye weeks, he may not even be a viable starter, but has to be on a roster. And after Ameer Abdullah, we have to go and add Sincere McCormick. Look, we all thought it was going to be Dylan Lobb. It was not. McCormick was the only other running back to touch the football. He has to be on a roster, even in a presumed low-scoring offense. Move number 2, we are adding a series of other quarterbacks, none of which are overly exciting. Brandon Allen, who is the current starter with Brock Purdy out for a undisclosed amount of time in San Francisco. Now, Purdy could be back next week, but given all of the news and how much conjecture there is around his return, I don't think that's a guarantee. The downside with Brandon Allen is, 1, he's bad. 32 years old, don't know how he's in the league still. 2, he supposedly broke his finger 2 weeks ago in practice, and they still threw him out there as a starter. I don't know if he is good enough to keep this job for an extended period of time. I think you should also be adding Joshua Dobbs, the other backup right now. Now, if Daniel Jones lands here, then look, Brandon Allen and Joshua Dobbs don't matter. But for the time being, Joshua Dobbs has a real path to be the starter, and I think he'd be a better fantasy option as well than Brandon Allen. So keep an eye there. If I'm desperate at quarterback, I'm adding both of those guys. In addition to that, we are adding Tyrod Taylor. And you might think Aaron Rodgers backup. We're going out and adding Aaron Rodgers backup. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing, because Aaron Rodgers is supposedly super injured. Won't get tests or anything taken, but he's actually very, very hurt, guys. That's what's the truth. Who the hell knows, right? Aaron Rodgers is the D-bag. He is quitting on this team. This team has quit on him. They've quit on the organization as a whole. I wouldn't be surprised if they shut him down and just go to Tyrod Taylor. And the thing is, if Tyrod Taylor gets the start, look, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Breece Hall, you have Devontae Adams. It's a really good situation for a quarterback that isn't terrible. And I think Tyrod Taylor is slightly above terrible, so he's interesting there. And the last speculative, and the last speculative, and the last speculative, and the last cautionary ad is going to be Drew Lock. Look, Tommy DeVito was terrible. He was very, very bad. This team is fully imploded now that the Daniel Jones saga is over. Tommy DeVito is also hurt, and if he doesn't get the start, then it's going to go to Drew Lock. I think he's a better option than DeVito is, even with all of his own flaws. So he needs to be rostered. There's a lot of quarterbacks out there right now as we get into backup season that could find their way to QB2 relevance should they get thrown into the starting spot. And look, in Superflex, it's never a bad idea to have backup quarterbacks that could turn into starters. Move number 3, we are adding Craig Reynolds. And I think this pops up a couple times every year, right? Demo gets banged up. He leaves with a shoulder injury in week 12. Now, he says he's going to be out there in week 13 against the Bears, right? Revenge game. They're going to destroy Chicago. So I could see them also not risking David Montgomery moving forward. And if that's the case, Craig Reynolds becomes a must-own running back because he's one snap away from being the guy in Detroit, right? Obviously, without David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to see the vast majority of the workload. He's going to have, 80 to 90% of the touches. But Craig Reynolds just becomes a really interesting handcuff should anything happen and David Montgomery's shoulder injury linger, longer than he's anticipating, longer than the team expects. In addition to that, maybe throw it out there as another backup you should roster. Kenny Gainwell, not going to wax eloquently on him for too long here. He's Saquon's backup. add Kenny Gainwell. He's available in over 40% of leagues, which doesn't make any sense.
Sorry to interrupt this video, but I just wanted to let everybody know that we will once again be running our annual Black Friday / Cyber Week sale, and this year is going to be our biggest sale ever. Starting immediately after Thanksgiving and running through Friday, December 6th, you can get a full year of DLF Premium access for 33% off the normal annual membership price. That is just $40 for a full year of industry-leading analysis, rankings, tools, and community from the most experienced Dynasty site on the planet. And it also includes access to our Dynasty Trade Analyzer and Trade Finder and the new Dynasty League Analyzer, which makes signing up now an absolutely incredible value. And you can sign up at this price even if you are already a subscriber. We'll just tack on another year to your subscription and you are good to go. So don't miss out on this chance to get the absolute best deal of the year on the best Dynasty site in the industry.
Now, getting away from like waiver wire ads, let's look at move number 4. I am selling Cooper Kupp. Now, this isn't because I think Cooper Kupp is bad. It's not because Cooper Kupp is, losing value drastically and he's washed up. No, I don't think that's the case. But if you are holding him and you are not a legitimate contender, this is the window to sell Cooper Kupp. He has been really damn good for fantasy, but a lot of it's on touchdowns. Got a little bit of garbage time against Philly last week, and he's 31 years old, going to be 32 next year. This is the peak value for Cooper Kupp, right? He's healthy. The Rams are playing decent football. He's producing for fantasy. Contenders that need a wide receiver, Cooper Kupp is a great target to go after. You might be able to squeeze a first out of Cooper Kupp, depending on your league and how desperate that contending roster might be. And a late first for Cooper Kupp, turning 32 years old, with Puka clearly looking like the better, more consistent wide receiver, that's a no-brainer. Other guys I'd go and target. I'd look at Chris Olave. I'd look at Devontae Smith. Those are players injured, banged up, can't help contenders right now. You may have to attach a pick to Kupp going back the other way, but that's okay because you're going to get younger and still get talented wide receivers. I know people may not think that about Chris Olave. I still do. So those are your outs on Cooper Kupp. And if you can't sell him, try again next week and the week after. Because, look, you don't want to hold a 32-year-old wide receiver in the offseason. He's going to lose serious value once this season ends. So keep that in mind if you're contending or not. And move number 5, we are going out and we are buying Drake Maye. And look, Drake Maye is going to be a semi-expensive asset. And this really only works if he is sitting on the bench of a contender. Because if I'm a contending team right now, I'm trying to win a title, I do not want to be starting Drake Maye. I just don't. He's given you, 15.9 points per game over the last 4 weeks. That's not good enough. I'm trying to win a title. Admittedly, that is not where I want my assets allocated. Now, if I am not contending and I have a guy like, say, Jared Goff, I have Tua, I have CJ Stroud, like those are players I'm okay to pivot off of and go to Drake Maye. Now, Drake Maye is more expensive than them, but this is where when you get end of season, people have a title, 3-4 weeks away, value gets a little bit wonky. And those are the things you want to take advantage of. With CJ Stroud, if I could go, send Stroud for Drake Maye in a first, I'd be kind of interested in that. Like as a rebuilder, getting the extra first with Drake Maye, who I think is going to be a very good quarterback, is an interesting proposition. When you add in the fact that over the last 4 weeks, Drake Maye's rushing upside has just really shown through. He's on pace for 731 rushing yards over the last 4 weeks. Like that is an enticing ceiling. And he's doing this without receiving weapons, right? Like that's the crazy part. The other two names I mentioned, right? Tua, Jared Goff. Tua coming off of a monster performance in fantasy. You probably have to attach a pick, like a second to Tua to go up to Drake Maye. I'm okay with that. And then even like Drake Maye for Jared Goff, who's playing some of the best football of his career. Jared Goff is generally not a high ceiling play. On a year-by-year basis, he's generally a mid-level QB2. That is what Jared Goff will be most likely moving forward. Maybe not this year, but as people start to catch up to Detroit. So again, if I can pivot and send Jared Goff to a contender and get somebody back like Drake Maye with, maybe smaller pieces on each side, that's something I am all in on.